Yes, this is one of the funniest videos I've seen on the internet in a long time. I'm going to share it with you here in just a second. Friends, welcome to the program. Sam Mirejovsky here behind the What's Right microphone. Happy Tuesday. Good to be with you. My email, sam@whatsrightshow.com, is where you can reach me and find me also on Twitter, on X, as it is now called, @whatsrightsam. So there's a guy in New York. I told you about this protest yesterday. I told you that the biggest news story over the weekend, and it's carrying into today, is that there was an honest-to-goodness terror attack in New York City, and nobody in the mainstream media is talking about it. They're just sleeping on the story. You got these two young jihadis who live in the U.S., I think the kids of naturalized Americans, and they throw a IED, improvised explosive device, and there's video of it. Okay, now the video has come out. This is where it gets funny. Well, actually, it's sad, but I, of course, find the humor in some of these things, so I'll tell you what it is. So you remember what this protest was about. There was a sort of an Islamic takeover of New York City. A bunch of people came out, pro-Islam protest, and there was a counter-protest. There are some people there who were not pleased with the Islamic takeover, and they both sides, admittedly, had people come into New York from outside the city, outside the state, to join in these protests. So you had this guy, you had one of the, I guess, the anti-MAGA people there, the pro-Islam guy, white guy, right? Presumably a New Yorker. He literally is on a bullhorn, and he's telling people what, he's telling the people who are anti the Islamic takeover, we don't need people from outside the city telling us what to do. We welcome people from all races and creeds and the like. He's an arms wide open, heart, full of love lib. Well, guess what? One of the guy that literally threw the pipe bomb, what is he? He launches himself off the back of this guy, and it's all on video. I'm about to play the tape here. Those of you watching the Sam Cam can see this. If you don't have the video component of it, I'll describe to you exactly everything that's happening.
You don't live in New York. You're coming to New York to tell people who belongs in New York and who doesn't belong in New York. We were born and raised in New York, and we want everyone here to stay in New York. You don't get to come from outside and then tell everyone else.
And here it comes. Wow. The guy launches off of his back as he is there proclaiming a clarion call for tolerance. Well, it's the guy's name is Walter Masterson. Here's what he said on X, and he posted this video, and he was proud of himself. Quote, "I was in the middle of saying, as a born and raised New Yorker, we welcome everybody into the city when he threw that over my head." And then he goes, "And I still stand by it. Everyone's welcome except for that," and then he used some expletives to describe Jake Lang, the guy who was organizing the counter-protest. Now, look, here's the thing that's just wild to me. The delusions that leftists are under. He was actually laughing and making fun of people who ran from the bomb. Quote, "I cannot stress this enough." This is the guy that allowed his back to be the launching pad for the jihadi attack on Saturday. "I cannot stress this enough," he said. "It was right near our feet, and it did not look real. We just stood there laughing." Can you imagine this? You know, the NYPD comes in and says, yeah, we examined the bomb. It had shrapnel in it, nuts, bolts, nails. And it had actually a very dangerous chemical in it. This is, well, no, it had an accelerant in it. This is no joke. I mean, this could have been an absolutely deadly event had the bomb actually worked. So, well, that's just what the problem is here, right? The NYPD confirms it's a live nail bomb. All right. He calls it. There's the drug there, or the chemical is a TATP, and it's enormously volatile, and it's nicknamed Mother of Satan. All right. This is the same explosive that ISIS used in the Paris and Brussels attacks. So that, well, what is it? Is it this is what happened? You've got this leftist guy who is so convinced in the importance of his tolerance that he doesn't have any, appreciation for risk and danger. You know, I guess if I was standing on a street somewhere in a city, basically anywhere, and I saw a guy that looked like this particular kid throwing something and looking crazed, I wouldn't stand around. I would run in the opposite direction. But the problem that we have is this dedication to being compassionate, being politically correct. You know, I don't want to look. This guy literally, he doesn't want to look like and appear or be called in any way, shape, or form a racist or a bigot or an Islamophobe. People are going to die for this. And it's not that long ago when it was people like this that ran our government. And that's why this video is so important. This ideology of tolerance just, destroyed a group of people, many of whom were in powerful positions in our country. I could thank Biden for that. So that's, this story is developing. It's continuing. By the way, the kids' parents, they legally immigrated from Turkey. And one of them, the bomb thrower, grew up in a $1 million house in a nice part of Pennsylvania. I've looked at pictures of this, really nice. And when he got perp walked by the FBI, he did a little ISIS salute, put one of his fingers up in the air. Well, terrorism obviously is not a poverty problem. Like we're told that, right? It's a poverty problem. This is an ideology problem, okay? And imagine being so stupid. Like, again, back to the guy who's filming the video. He's 5 feet away from it, and he's taking pictures of it. And he's like, whoa, it doesn't look real. Hey, everybody, right? This is when civilization becomes suicidal. All right. Elon Musk, he got into this too. All right, so that's the story there. By the way, when we're talking about the war, my growing sense is a lot of people out there, the Iran war, are rooting actively against American success. And you saw this the last, 24 hours or so, coming out of Sunday into Monday morning, and throughout yesterday, a number of people were absolutely, honestly, they were delighted when oil prices began to spike. They were so happy about this. And why? It was proof that things weren't going well for America. See, Trump, there it is. The consequences of this war are now, becoming apparent. The chickens are coming home to roost. A bunch of news stories were written about this. Tweets were put out. A bunch of Democrats and their allies in the mainstream media all came home with egg on their face. Why? Because oil prices then immediately tumbled. They went from, I think, the high for the last 12 months or so to down below. They dropped 30%. 120 to 85 was the drop. So it was an utter collapse. Huge spike, midday spike, went back down again. And it's was the most watched financial chart on the internet yesterday. Fun fact. And why? Because it's evident that the United States is not playing around. Trump has floated the idea of sending warships to the Strait of Hormuz. Trump is insistent and has continued to bomb Iranian top targets. On the latest bits of information, unconfirmed, claimed that the new Ayatollah, the son of the old Ayatollah who was just yesterday, the day before, installed into his position, is already wounded. You have top commanders that aren't heard from. Yes, there is chatter that there are sleeper cells in the U.S. Yes, of course, Iranian drones continue to hit targets. Yes, the Iranian regime remains in place. But the effect of this week and a half, 2 weeks now of this war, I mean, it's just devastating. And this is not, Trump's not pulling any punches. So again, I understand. I know. Look, what was it on Monday? A Karg Island that is right there in the Strait of Hormuz. There's a discussion of a seizure of the island. And that's about 90% of Iran's oil exports. But other places go through there. And if you notice, ships have started going dark in the Strait of Hormuz, so they're turning off their transponders so they can't be located. But they're still going through. So nothing is as bad as it seems. And it's really just, a lot of people on the other side trying to make hay of this. And then there's Tucker Carlson. My gosh, I don't know what broke in his brain. This is the clip everybody's talking about.
Unconditional surrender means foreign troops get to rape your wife and daughter if they want. And everyone knows that. And that has been, if there's one consistent lesson of history, it means unconditional surrender means foreign troops get to rape your wife and daughter. Everyone can feel that. That's like the most atavistic instinct there is.
I don't even have words. Right. Well, first of all, I guess, are we, because Trump has said, this is a criticism of Trump. Trump has said, we're going for unconditional surrender. We want the mullahs in Iran to surrender unconditionally. Correct. This is the objective of this campaign. Now, Trump has also said, and this is, he's repeatedly said, we would want somebody reasonable in charge in the country. But it means that this murderous and insane government of Iran goes bye-bye. So yeah, unconditional surrender. Now, I don't know, when America prevailed in World War II, did we go around systematically raping people? I mean, the Russians arguably did. But this is absurd. This is absolutely absurd. It's ahistorical. Tucker Carlson absolutely lost his mind. The other thing is, by the way, we have not committed any ground troops. How is this, Robbie? I'm curious. The mechanics of raping a subjugated population from 30,000 feet up in the air. I don't know if Tucker's thought that one through. Well, it's not funny. None of this is funny. But again, this is probably why Trump yesterday decided to just smack it all down and say Tucker's lost his mind and he's off the reservation. So you've got that. I think. Look, I think. Look, I mean, basically, right now there's two camps in the country, and you can argue that there are people who don't want war, who are not pro-war, but once America is in it, wants to see the job done and a victory and our boys and girls coming home safely, right? I mean, that's what we want. And what bothers me is when people like Tucker, and it's painful when it's somebody that was supposedly on our side, says something that actually maligns the troops. Right? I mean, you could disagree with the policy of the president. You have to understand that the armed forces, have no right. This is not a video by Democrats in the Senate and the House. They have no choice. They have commands that they're given. They get put in harm's way. They go and fight. Regardless of what you think about the war, the people in the military are doing their best. And to accuse them of something and say that this is going to be the end result is just beyond the pale. Absolutely horrifying stuff. Now, the real actual procedural obstructionists right now are Senate and House Democrats back home in Washington. And this is, again, they're holding up spending for the Department of Homeland Security. The intel out there that there are these sleeper cells in the U.S. That have been activated, supposedly some chatter picked up by U.S. Armed Forces and the intel folks that is coming out of Iran, suggesting that these cells abroad, including in the U.S., have been activated. This is, to me, seems like not a time to play politics with Department of Homeland Security funding. Nonetheless, Democrats are doing this. And here is the man who wants to be Speaker of the House. If the Republicans lose in November, this guy's going to be Speaker of the House. Yeah, well, Mr. Jeffries, hey, here's what he says about this, explaining the Democratic position on why funding for DHS is being withheld and why the shutdown is continuing. Yet another shutdown brought to us by the Democratic Party.
The reason why we are in a DHS shutdown right now because Republicans have refused to agree to the type of bold, transformative, meaningful, and dramatic reforms we are demanding in order for the Department of Homeland Security funding bill to move forward. And I won't go through all of the demands, much of which we've talked about repeatedly in the public, but one of those demands is keep ICE out of sensitive locations. And we've defined that as schools, houses of worship, hospitals, and polling sites.
Wait, what?
We want an explicit prohibition that ICE can go nowhere near any polling sites in the United States of America. It's one of our demands. We're not going to bend on it.
Isn't it funny? Sensitive locations. He goes through a list. I've forgotten what the other things are already. I mean, I didn't even hear them because there was such an emphasis on the last point. Polling sites. We don't want ICE anywhere near polling sites. Man, could these people be any more obvious? I mean, look at this. I'm just, thinking out loud here. Imagine that you are a brown person in America. I'm going to be really just blunt and vulgar about this. Imagine you're a brown person in America and you are a naturalized immigrant to the U.S. and you have paperwork with you, right? You've got your documents, right? You've got a real ID. Maybe you now are a little bit worried with everything going on. You're carrying around your passport. You've got your green card. So you have that. Okay. Now, are you actually worried about going to a polling site? Are you worried? No, I understand some people might be a little like, oh, I might get pulled over because I have an accent and I kind of look like I might be one of those people, but presumably they've got documentation to show. In every country I've ever been to around the world, this is what happens. You have to show your status, and immigration enforcement and border and protection and such is enforced. So what is this? How many illegals are actually voting in the election by the Democrats' own admission? Does this horrify you? And these are the same people that are fighting the SAVE Act. See, it's all beginning to add up. Quick break here. I got to tell you what's happening in Maricopa County. because the FBI is on the case. And I think by the time Election Day rolls around, we're going to know a lot more than we ever imagined. Sam Mirejovsky here on the What's Right Media Network. Right back after this.
I'm the best.
Personal injury law has been the same for a long time.
The best.
Big egos, greed, and sleazy schemes. We've had enough. Welcome to Sam and Ash, the new standard for personal injury law, where things are done the right way, because you deserve a team that delivers real support and results. When you have both, your whole world can change. Sam and Ash Injury Law, because you deserve what's right.
Hi, welcome back. Sam Mirejovsky here with a word about what to do if you've been in an accident. First step, don't go at it alone, all right? I keep telling you this, folks, but it's so important. Your first call should be to Sam and Ash Injury Law. 800-304-2000. Maybe you're just a little bit hurt. Maybe you're just a little bit of pain. The uncertainty of what happens next more than warrants you reaching out and getting legal advice. Lots of people call us, by the way, and we give them advice on what to do, and they don't hire us. We'll tell you flat out if you don't need a lawyer, but most of the time you do. And what you absolutely need is good advice on how to proceed. And when you have a claim, when there is money involved, you can trust one thing that is absolutely for certain. The insurance company will do everything in their power to pay you as little as they possibly can. So don't get taken advantage of. Call Sam and Ash Injury Law now. 1-800-304-2000. That's the number. 800-304-2000. No recovery, no fee. No money up front. It's upside, and you don't have to deal with any of the paperwork, the phone calls, the crap, right? You got a life, you got a job, you got kids, you don't have time for this, all right? And don't think ChatGPT is going to save you either. Mean letters, even if they're perfectly written, don't get the job done. It's the accountability, right? Holding insurance companies accountable, and if they don't pay you what's right, taking them to court. They know that, and they don't want to do that, so they pay. That's the secret sauce. Okay, 800-304-2000, Sam and Ash Injury Law, because you deserve what's right. Quick word here before we get to Maricopa County. I had something happen the other day, and I want to share this with you because I wrote about it on X, and it's kind of taken off here since I put the post up. I live in Vegas, and I love to eat out. I love food, and I love restaurants, and I'm a huge, fan and supporter of our city. But there's this obnoxious restaurant behavior by restaurants, okay, not the patrons, but by the restaurants themselves, and particularly at some of the kind of higher end joints that are on the strip. You could have a reservation, okay? You have a reservation. You show up. Maybe you show up on time, a few minutes early, a few minutes late, but you're more or less on time. And anyway, and they make you wait. Now they know you're coming. And by the way, what happened to me is I got there right at 5:30. I was there right when they opened. I mean, they should be ready to go, right? It's just a couple of people standing there. Oh, we have to wait. And it's this, I tell you, I'm convinced these restaurants, they it's like this invisible velvet rope. Oh, you have to wait. Oh, you have to, the anticipation of getting to your table. And it doesn't sell, folks. It's not good. If you're in the restaurant, I'm telling you, it doesn't sell. I don't know if you've had this happen to you. I mean, frankly, a lot of places do this because they're not staffed, but it's not a staffing problem. Just this silly kind of, I don't know. It's just, to me, nonsense. So I wrote about it and threw it up on X, and people reacting to it. If your hospitality is making every person feel like they're the only customer, that's the key point. Okay, now let me tell you, Maricopa County. Yesterday, Trump broke the news that apparently the FBI has taken possession of the Maricopa County, Arizona election records as part of a widening voting investigation. All right. And Trump actually reposted a story in Just the News. John Solomon, my good friend, covering the story. The dominoes are falling, folks. Okay, this is look, it's something is going on. And remember, Maricopa County, this is the most populous county in Arizona. There's been a lot of interesting irregularities that have occurred there. There have been subpoenas issued. There is apparently a federal grand jury now active and is issuing subpoenas down there. They're focusing on the 2024 election cycle. And look, it's an actual criminal investigation. They've got high definition images of all 2.1 million ballots. This is wild. Warren Peterson there, the registrar, I received and complied with the federal grand jury subpoena. The FBI has the records. Okay, so this just now is done, right? It's moving forward. And remember that there was a 2020 Arizona election fraud affidavit that was filed. This was there were people basically hired $21 an hour for voter registration. They had ballrooms filled with computers, workers, boxes, voting ballots being moved in and out. Workers were being recruited from Arizona to drive to Georgia. I mean, look, this hasn't been proven in court yet, right? I understand that, but these are serious allegations. So a lot of people on the right saying, of course, Kari Lake should have been the governor. We'll see, right? It's not going to, I don't know, the overturning in past election. The point is here, we have to prove that election fraud is real. And I keep thinking, and hear me out on this, I keep thinking that there's a certain amount of song and dance that Trump is playing from his side, right? Because a lot of people are saying, why is he not pushing the SAVE Act more? And notice that Trump incrementally keeps adding pressure. The latest was, just the other day saying that he would no longer sign any new bills until the SAVE Act got passed. So, I mean, that's a development, right? But he's sort of waiting, I think. This is just my opinion. I'm not telling you this is not inside knowledge of any kind. But I think he is waiting for this. Trump has a flair for the dramatic, right? He's a storyteller. He's a media guy, right? That's where his world is at. So Trump is deliberately letting this sort of saga play out. He knows that 80% of the country is behind him. He knows that 71% of Democrats think we ought to have voter ID. He sees the Democrats, elected Democrats, take this incredibly absurd position that basically you and I are too stupid to obtain proof of citizenship, okay? And Trump's over there going, I don't want to win this today. I don't want to have one episode. I want to have a mini series. Maybe I want to have a second season, as long as I can get this thing done. Now, the late yesterday, Thune came out, Senate Majority Leader came out as far as the SAVE Act is concerned and said, I don't know if I can guarantee the talking filibuster procedurally as we can't do this. And everything that he's been saying where he's going to get it done and he's promising to get the SAVE Act passed, to get Cornyn the endorsement, sort of went up in smoke. And I think it reveals that Thune is, playing games with Trump. And Trump recognizes this now, and I'm convinced of that. But wouldn't it be a beautiful argument to tighten up the elections if all of a sudden you could dispositively prove that there were significant criminal conspiracies at play in both 2020 and 2024, maybe even in 2022? You look at those 3 federal elections, national federal elections, because that's where the feds have jurisdiction. They will have jurisdiction over elections where they are where this federal vote's being cast. So yeah, I mean that's I'm just saying, already now 80+% of the country behind the SAVE Act as we speak. Add to it, all of a sudden, a very legitimate investigation and proof that begins to come out, possibly even convictions, because you'll get the convictions in Arizona. You're not going to get them in D.C. You're not going to get them in Virginia. Probably not in most places in California. You get them in Arizona. That's why I like this so much. Now, for his part, Gavin Newsom, this guy will not let it be. This is Friday night. Gavin Newsom promoting his book in this process, but this is their classic shtick on why the SAVE Act is nothing. It's so offensive to Democrats, Republicans, independents alike.
What's the SAVE Act all about? It's not about voter ID. It's about who gets to vote. It's about voter registration. This guy is not screwing around, and nor can we. And forgive the long-windedness, you opened up with Prop 50. That's what it represents. We have got to fight fire with fire. I wish it weren't the case. The idea that we were advocating for gerrymandering, the fact that we were advocating for literally politicizing and choosing voters, shows you how precious, again, and profound and consequential this moment is in our republic.
Okay. Sometimes I feel like he just uses words to fill the airwaves. But setting aside the nonsense about gerrymandering, they are. It's about who gets to vote. It's about voter registration. Of course, it's about who gets to vote. Of course, it's about voter registration. We understand this. Only citizens get to vote. And Newsom is saying the quiet part out loud, right? He's saying, well, this is about limiting who gets to vote. Of course. Yes. To what the Constitution prescribes. Everything else that he said after that is just nonsense, is just verbal diarrhea. Right? So I'm just, to me, this is the most pressing issue. And a number of people are correctly pointing out the war in Iran. I'm sorry to say this to Tucker Carlson. The war in Iran, as it is being executed right now by this administration, will not fracture the Republican Party. If you think that this war is going to be a problem for Republicans, for Republican unity, and for Republicans going into the midterm, you are wrong. But the SAVE Act, if every Republican right now that is in Congress, that is in the House of Representatives or the Senate, that isn't actively trying to get this thing done, is dead politically. Okay? They're never coming back from this. And if it is perceived that the Republican Party, management of the party has tolerated the SAVE Act from dying, if it does, I think is the end of the Republican Party. There'll be a new party. There'll be the Trump Party. The GOP will go the way of the Whigs. There'll be the Trump Party, and a guy like Thune is not going to join the Trump Party. Clearly, Cornyn neither, right? That's I think that's really what's going to happen here. And by the way, Trump remains very popular. Okay, a lot of concern I have, of course, with the midterms coming up, but not always looking that great for Republicans, understood. But the Trump endorsement remains powerful. And something Harry Enton said yesterday, reported on CNN, just in terms of the numbers, because you hear a lot about Trump making endorsements that don't work out. There have been a few of them historically that have proven to backfire. But he does overall have a very positive record. And this, I'm telling you, this is, if you're in Congress, you want to get across the finish line, and you're in a Republican district. I mean, you need Trump. Listen to this.
Republicans love Donald Trump more than any president's own party supporters loved him at this particular point. Just take a look here. Okay, own party supporters, 21st century presidents, own party approval about at this point in the second term. Bush was at 77%. Obama was at 77%. Look at this. 86% of Republicans approve of the job that Donald Trump is doing at this point. That is higher than either Obama or Bush had within their own party at this point. Trump's magic touch has not seemed to wear off yet when it comes to the Republican base.
And why is that? I keep telling you this, folks. It's so important. Trump campaigned on all of this. You can't smear Trump with the ICE enforcement thing. It's what people voted for. People literally wanted it. He said we're going to get the bad guys out with them others. We're going to mass deportations. Really, the only thing Trump could do is not deport enough people. He repeatedly spoke of the need to put Iran in check. And he oftentimes, to the chagrin of the media, in a rather flip and humorous way, mentioned bombing Iran back to the Stone Age. He did this. He is executing on his plan. Has he given RFK Jr. a wide berth to redefine his department as he sees fit? Has he honored his deal with the Make America Healthy Again movement? I think so. I mean, a bellwether of this is my wife, who is a RFK Jr. fanatic, always was. Honestly, probably at one point, somewhere back in time, liked RFK Jr. more than Trump. Now she loves them both. But the point is, right? I mean, you talk to the Maha moms, Making America Healthy Again, supporters, and they're happy with what they see overall. And is Trump not getting the SAVE Act done? No. It's Congress. So the Trump brand, strong politically, right? And the Republican brand, very, very weak. Normally, you would view a Republican loss like this in the midterms, and I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying if it happens, you would view it as a referendum on the president. I think this is the first time in my lifetime that a midterm loss for the incumbent party, okay, has no reflection on the president himself whatsoever. And people like Trump, and they just do not like this obstructionist Republican Congress. Now, I'm going to mention this too. This is a fascinating story. It is a whispering. Okay, it is a whispering because these are people that were speaking on background. Apparently, there was a meeting at the White House with top-level GOP donors. There's about 24 of them. So, what's that? 25 people or so. Private dinner. And there was in a moment where Trump apparently asked informally who should carry the movement forward. Really what he's asking is who ought to be anointed the nominee, who should get the Trump endorsement to be the next president. An interesting thing is that the room voted for Marco Rubio. That's what it was. It was almost unanimous, and this is according to a source speaking to NBC News. Well, even Stephen A. Smith, who's, I think, danced around on some of his own presidential ambition, has mentioned that he would vote for Rubio in 2028. There's a cultural realignment going on. When Stephen A. Smith is publicly naming a Republican, the Overton window has shifted in a significant way. And again, the people that are on the fringes now, really, they're completely out of touch with the mood of the country, are people like Thune and Cornyn and Tillis. They're almost in the same boat as Chuck Schumer. So I remain very much optimistic. This is a great thing. You just have to be aware of what's going on. I'll close with this too. You got to realize not just the oil prices. The Dow Jones actually ended up positive yesterday for a day that was predicted to be a black market, for an event that was predicted to be cataclysmic. We are expecting a crash. Trump is I'm telling you this, that going about things in such a different and authentic way that a lot of the conventional thinking right now is just off. That much is absolutely for certain. All right, folks, so much to cover. Just one short hour to get to all of it. Sam Mirejovsky here on the What's Right Media Network. I'll see you tomorrow.